So, this one's gonna be about losing your shit. And it's gonna be a new article from the ideas.ted.com website, which means we are not on the jamesclear.com website, which is amazing, to some degree. Like, it is totally okay, just on the other hand, it is like, okay, well, I don't give a fuck, because if there's a good article, I wanna go through it. I wanna present it to you, and I wanna spread the value that I'm seeing in this article. But yeah, more to this article that we are just heading to go through after the intro. As always, after the amazing intro. And I'm feeling pumped. I'm feeling so incredibly happy and good that I'm able to sit here. And talk to you about certain things that I'm thinking about certain things that I'm looking forward to be talking about, to just do what I'm doing. Like, let's not make a movie out of it, let's not make a speech out of it, but rather make something great out of it, always trying to do something great, always trying to just produce something, that is, I don't know, maybe that is feeling good to me, or maybe that is like seeming to be sufficient for me, or something, I don't know. But as you can see now on the left side, I'm just talking about a bunch of shit, I'm sorry. As you can see on the left side, we are heading through the feel like you're about to lose it, ? It could be a good time for a meta moment article. The funny thing is, I lost my shit so fucking often the past 2 days. So actually yesterday and today, and it has been a really, really, well, I don't want to say scary thing, but it has been a really fucked up thing, because I don't like that, because I am trying to just be a really good person. I like to be a good person. I like to feel like a person that is liked. I like to feel like a person that is also admired by other people, I just really, I just like it, I believe in karma, and I just believe in being nice, It just is not only about karma, it is not only about okay, if I'm nice, then something nice is going to happen for me as well. It is for me just about being nice because it feels good, and there's a reason why it feels good, because of nature. At least this is what I believe. I might have been actually talking about this using quote unquote an article, I guess, but it's for sure has been quite some time since then. But as far as I know, there's actually a reason why it feels good, why helping other people feels good, or why being nice and why being just generous and a good person, whatever, just feels good. And I believe it is because the fact that we would have all died, basically, just back in the really, really early days, like caveman days and whatever, because there were a lot of predators, and I've been talking about it for so often. So if you're just a really early listener or really early watcher of this podcast, then you might know that, and then it might be a little bit boring the next 2 minutes or something. But the thing is, we would have all died, because there were so many predators, and we had to be in a group. And I don't know, I think the thing is that helping each other just led us to survive, basically. Just led us to being able to live, led us to just staying alive, basically, to just surviving those just incredibly tough days, I guess. But you know what? I do just remember that I'm having to go through another article that I started yesterday on the jamesclear.com website. And it's been a good article. Yesterday's episode's been not really great. This is also one of the reasons why I'm trying to make this one even better, and I'm actually hoping to do that as well. Because I don't know, the thing is, if you're just feeling actually losing your shit, it's not going to be a good episode. You're not going to be able to just make a good episode, at least as I think about it, or just how I think about it. Which means okay, I might feel, or I might think that this episode is not good, but in the end, if somebody watches it, and in the end, if somebody is using it to gain knowledge off of it, or just, use it as value, I don't know, then, it could also be an incredibly good one. It could be an incredibly just amazing episode for somebody, even though it might not be a good one for me. And this is actually one of the reasons why we shouldn't actually judge ourselves, because we shouldn't actually just be the judge. because we are producing something, or I, for example, I'm producing something for the people that I'm seeking to grow, that are seeking for entertainment, they're seeking to grow in not a really like boring way, I guess, or just that are seeking for knowledge, also not in a really boring way, and I'm producing for them. And if I see like, well, I know people are liking this shit, even though I felt like, okay, it is not a good episode because I wasn't that just, I don't know, my speaking ability wasn't that good or whatever. I don't know, like I shouldn't judge it then, because the people like it, the people this content is meant for, they like it, and then everything is nice and everything is good and everything is happy and super and duper. But yeah, we are starting with this article. So when we are overwhelmed by emotions, we are usually not our best selves. We are totally not. We may blow up, say hurtful things, or burst into tears. But what if we had a tool we could use to turn down the temperature at those times? Psychologist Marc Brackett has a helpful strategy. And this article, by the way, is also written by Marc Brackett, PhD. Really interesting. I still feel like that it is a little crazy, to think about and talk about yourself in like the third person. Well, basically talking about yourself, like it must feel a little bit strange, I guess. And then when I'm myself in the situation, it might not even feel that bad. I don't know. So as founding director of the Yale Center for Emotional Intelligence, psychologist Marc Brackett has devoted the past 25 years to conducting research and developing ruler and evidence-based approach to social and emotional learning, which has been integrated into more than 2,000 schools in the US and around the world. Here he writes about a particularly useful tactic. Who does know that? The tactic that all of us can use to diffuse potentially destructive responses. So as we all know, our best attempts at calm, thoughtful reflection work only when we feel in control of our emotions. If you're raging with resentment or crushed by disappointment, you're probably not capable of the reasoning required to see a situation in a new light. You first need to bring down your emotional temperature, lower your activation, and give yourself the space required for rational thought. You might take a few deep breaths, a few steps back, a walk around the block. You might be doing one of these things, and I've also seen that. Is this working for me? Is this working for me? Is just going for a walk or something, is this working for me? Sometimes it really does work for me, especially if it is about like, I've been working all day long and I've been just sitting at home all day long, and in the end I'm basically breaking my pattern. I'm actually disrupting my pattern of sitting at home and doing my shit, because I don't know, I'm just a person that likes to just do different things. I wouldn't like to just do one thing, because I like to do multiple things. I like to just get really deep into certain other things, into certain other ways of doing things, into just other areas of life, I would say, because I don't know, I think I get bored relatively quickly, and unless, or actually when it is like, okay, I've been just relatively good in a certain thing, then I don't know, it gets a little bit boring. And it gets like, okay, now the whole kind of just, the whole good feeling about just figuring out new shit and whatever is gone. And therefore it's like, well, it's a little bit boring then. But the thing is, we all can do just multiple things. And I believe still just because there are some books like The One Thing that let you focus on one particular thing that is really important, or the most important thing, which totally makes sense. I'm really not going to be like, well, this doesn't make any sense, please don't do that, it is shit, just do as much things or as many things as you want to. The thing is, some people just want to do that. Some people just want to have just only one thing. One thing. And this is fine. But if you feel like, and if you know about yourself, and if you're just so self-aware that you know that you just need to do multiple things, you need to not only just do the podcast, but you also want to do some content on Instagram, or some content on Twitter, or some content on businessinsider.com, because you like to write articles as well, besides producing videos, besides I don't know, just making statues. Could be the case. You could be just making some of these things. It seems to be just relatively interesting, doesn't it? Like you're just making some figures that can move. Sounds great. Why not? Why really not? The thing is, once again, it is really about how you feel. What you think about certain things and how you, what you believe is making you happy. And not somebody else, and not like your mother, not your parents, and whatever. So, or maybe you're ready for the meta moment. This article, by the way, seems to be about the meta moment. I don't know what it is yet, but I'm really trying, and hopefully actually being able to just know what it is after I've read the article. And it's just a really long way to say that I hope I'm gonna learn what it is. Yeah. So, a decade ago, Robin Stern, psychoanalyst and associate director of our center, and I were wondering why so many people in our society are addicted to strategies that derail them from achieving their goals. Robin had worked with hundreds of patients who were unsuccessful even after learning new tactics, and I observed school children and educators who didn't employ the strategies they were learning, even when they knew they were helpful. It is really interesting. It really is interesting that people in general do not even act on what they know. And I'm doing it myself, helping yourself with feeling good, just doing your shit and all those things that I'm actually talking about. It is not as easy as telling it to somebody else. It is really not as easy. But it's, in my point of view, it doesn't have anything to do with being credible and actually just believing in somebody's words or whatsoever. It is like, in general, relatively difficult also for life coaches. I've been talking about it, but I've been listening to a Tony Robbins podcast. As far as I know, I think it was a Tony Robbins podcast, and it was actually about a life coach. And this life coach actually got a life coach or a mentor, something like this. Something in this kind of area. And I can understand this. I can really deeply understand this. Why just life coach themselves need a life coach as well. Because sometimes things are going really not good, and then you also can't help yourself. Pretty interesting thing. I think also just, I don't know, psychiatrists, if they are called like this. I hope the pronunciation was right. I just also believe that sometimes, or there might be an occasion where when they also need a psychiatrist or a psychoanalyst or whatever it is, when they do themselves have some problems with their mental game, And I think, this is something that can happen. I assume. Has this something to do with just being good at what you're doing and being not good at what you're doing just because you can't help yourself? It could mean that. As I'm just thinking about it. It could, basically people could think that it actually means this. Could be the thing. But yeah, let's move on with the reading part. So pausing helps you refrain, with the N in the end, or on the end. So pausing helps you refrain from making a permanent decision based on a temporary emotion, says author and consultant Justin Bariso. Many of us were exposed to destructive responses early in our lives: negative talk, screaming, blaming, and so on. They require little cognitive control, and they are often effective at getting rid of negative feelings and providing temporary gratification. But at the time, we fail to realize these strategies can also ruin our relationships and derail us from achieving our goals. So we developed the tool we call the meta moment, a hitting of the brakes and stepping out of time. We call it meta because it is a moment about a moment. Really interesting, because I didn't know that before I've actually been listening to an Akimbo podcast episode, so from Seth Godin's Akimbo podcast, and it was Meta. I think it was only called Meta, and it basically was a podcast about podcasts. And I didn't know that before. I didn't know that things, talking, how should I say? That if you're just using the same medium to talk about this particular medium, is called meta. It is something matter. I guess, this might have been just not the really just exact definition of it, for sure not, but it is a definition, at least for me to just explain what I mean. But yeah. So we call it a meta because it's a moment about a moment. It might mean mentally counting, as in 1, 2, 3 or 1 to 10. Depending on the severity of the emotion, taking one or several deep breaths may also be a part of it. Anything to give ourselves room to maneuver and deactivate. A meta moment is when we stop the action and say, am I hearing this correctly? Or maybe we might say, I need to pause and take a deep breath right now so that I don't blow my top, break down, sobbing or wrecked in some way I will probably regret. And regret is definitely one of the things that I felt because of it. That I felt because I'm just a really angry person. I can really be angry. I could just really blow up, basically. Really. And I hate when I'm doing this. I really don't. Like in this certain moment, it just feels good, to be honest. It just feels good. And I think it is just really normal that it also just feels good, just in this certain moment. But afterwards, it's often like, okay, what have I said? Have I hurt this person? That I was saying something maybe not too nice to. Have I just hurt myself because I've just punched against my table, which is something that I often do. Something that happens to me quite often, because I'm angry and then I'm basically punching whatever is around me. Whether it is just, I don't know, a fucking wall, this closet, my table here, it could be everything. The thing is, am I regretting it afterwards? Sometimes, of course, especially when I hurt myself or especially when I hurt also somebody else, because as I've been thinking or talking about before, I guess, I just like to be a nice person. I believe in being nice. I believe in just being a generous, nice, and, well, also happy person in the end. Happy person is definitely a good thing. Obviously, I hope that you're happy as well. I really hope that. So this helps us go beyond our first impulse and find a wiser response. As the author and consultant Justin Pariso put it, pausing helps you refrain from making a permanent decision based on a temporary emotion. And then there's another quote. Pausing gives us the chance to ask two useful questions. How have I handled situations like this in the past? And what would my best self do right now? A really good one. And even though I do also have to say that it is definitely just some work until you can do this, until you can actually step back and tell yourself or ask yourself, okay, what would my best self do right now? What would I do right now? What would somebody that is a role model to me, what would this person do now? I think it definitely just takes some strength, takes some willpower, especially a lot of willpower. I believe in that. I really believe that it's going to take some willpower and it's going to take some strength and some ambition, whatever, to first of all, and this is now very important, to first of all ask yourself the question of, okay, what would somebody that I'm looking up to or what my best version of myself would do, and also then act on it, because it is something different. Of course, I can ask myself, like, what would I do? What would I do, if I would be feeling good? What would Tony Robbins do? What would Gary Vaynerchuk do? What would Tom Bilyeu do? What would Seth Godin do? What would insert name here of a successful person, Will Smith, do? What would they do? It is something different. Then also just afterwards, after you've thought about it and after you've actually just gathered or just got an answer just for your own question, it is something different than if you can also act on it, because it happened to me as well. It happened to me that I was like, well, if I'm doing this right now, I'm really not a good person and I'm trying to be a good person. It is in my mind. It is really in my head and I know it. I think about it, and I guess that I'm also subconsciously thinking and talking and whatever about it. The thing is, I decided because I think it might have been more pleasure for me in this certain moment to just not ignore that, but just do what I wanted to do, just hit the table, hit the closet, hit something, whatever it is, instead of just pausing and not doing it. Because it takes energy, it takes willpower, it takes, willpower, definitely willpower. So this is something that I just wanted to point out, that this is very important. But he might also be talking about it afterwards. He might also be talking about it. But I just see that I really did a good job at going through this one today, because it is like really long. It is actually a relatively long one. So pausing and taking a deep breath activates our parasympathetic nervous system. Who doesn't know it? This reduces the release of cortisol, a major stress hormone, and naturally lowers our emotional temperature. Pausing also gives us the chance to quickly ask 2 useful questions, and we've been already going through these questions. Therefore, I'm just skipping this. To tap into their best selves, some people may think of a set of adjectives such as compassionate, intelligent, or conscientious. I think it is actually conscientious, because there's some science in there. Conscientious. Yeah, it is actually conscientious, which means diligent, industrious, punctilious, painstaking, sedulous, assiduous, dedicated. Well, I know dedicated. Let's go for dedicated. Other people could picture an image or look at an object. A good friend who is principal of a middle school has a Smurf on her desk to remind her to be her best self. Visualizing our best self can redirect our attention away from the triggering person, words, or events and back towards our values and towards those things that we actually want to be, the things that we're actually willing to achieve, the things that are, important to us. I guess as well. Because, I don't know, I really believe that everybody is just somehow trying and somehow willing to be remembered as a good person, especially when it is about their legacy. I think nobody is really willing to just be remembered as a really shitty person and a person that nobody likes. By the way, am I having some tomato sauce in my face? Because I've, just before I went to the train, I've actually had some gnocchi, which is, I don't know if people know that, but it's like spaghetti, but only with potato dough, and also some wheat and whatsoever, which I don't like, by the way. Don't like that fact. I would just like to have, some gnocchi with only potato dough, because I don't like anything but potatoes and eggs, basically. I think this would even work, even though, I don't know, maybe you need some flour for that. Maybe it wouldn't just work without it, but I just like the fact that there is some potato in there. I like just vegetables, I like to just eat vegetables, and I think it is just a great thing to do, a great thing to have, like just, eating some veggies. Let's eat some veggies, motherfucker. What the fuck? So a couple of years ago, a student raised his hand in class and said, "I have a question that I don't think even you will know how to answer." To say that I was activated is an understatement. Arrogance is a trigger for me. I wanted to reply, I might not know the answer, but remember, I grade your papers. What the fuck? Instead, I reached into my professor of emotional intelligence, which seems to be a book, I guess. So I reached into my... I see. So oh my god. I reached into my quote-unquote professor of emotional intelligence self and asked, how about if I get questions from some of the other students now and we can chat after class? Then I politely informed him that this question could have been worded more diplomatically. Really important to point out that to actually, especially I believe that the thing is, I believe that kids are not trying to be arrogant. Kids are not trying to just be unpolite. Kids are not trying to just hurt you on purpose. Sometimes they do, maybe, because I don't know. I haven't been working with kids before. I I just only have seen it myself that I don't know, they're just talking, they're just willing to ask you something, they're willing to tell you something, they're willing to do something, they're willing to communicate. And sometimes it just goes wrong. Sometimes they might be using the wrong words. They might just only think about the wrong words. They might just have the wrong words in their brain, in their heads, in their mouth, in their heart, wherever they are. And then they just use them. And then telling them like, okay, you could have said that nicer. You could have been just more empathetical. Or is it? Yeah, I think it is actually empathetical. Empathetical with your words. You could have thought about myself. You could have thought about the other person, how the other person is feeling when I'm asking this question. I think it is a really, really important thing to just learn children to be empathetic and to be nice and to be polite and those things, even though, like, what is polite? Polite is such a thing that is really, like, widely just, it's a really, really widely spread topic, in my point of view. It's just like, okay, what is polite? For some people, polite is okay, just not sitting when you're shaking somebody's hands. It might be just standing up when you shake somebody's hands. It might be to just hug your mother when you're coming home. It might be just polite for her. It might also be just sitting in a certain position or sitting a certain way when you're eating something, at home. It could mean that, I'm not denying that I don't know. Politeness and being polite and whatever just really means something else to everybody, I believe. Some things are for sure like, I don't know, some things are just in general like polite. I don't know, like a lot of people think about it as being polite, therefore it is polite, because it's like, okay, society says it is polite and whatsoever. But yeah, still in the end, there is just really often some subjectivity to that, I guess, I believe. But yeah, I guess unfortunately that's gonna be the end of the episode. I do hope that there was something that that was good for you, something that you've learned from this one, something of especially value, even though, there might not have been just the really best information there. I really hope that it was just somehow entertaining and somehow just nice to listen to. This would also be good, this would also be just actually amazing, because, I don't know, actually listening to something while getting some information and being entertained feels good. It just really feels good. And also when you're watching it, because there's also the YouTube video if you're on the podcast. But if you're on the YouTube video, there's also an audio version, so podcast version of this certain episode. And yeah, all the links are down in the description. If you have liked the episode, I would totally appreciate it if you like the episode, if you rate the podcast, and if you also subscribe to the podcast and or the YouTube channel. If you would like to, not miss out on anything and just, get all the content that I'm doing. There might be something else for you. There might be something else that you're interested in. So therefore, just please subscribe. Would be amazing. I would just really appreciate that. But yeah, I wish you the best health of happiness and also success. And I also hope that you're going to remind yourself on how you're going to be remembered, which basically means your legacy, because we can shape it. The thing is that I'm willing to point out is that even though you might be the nicest and most generous person on this fucking planet, there's still going to be someone that doesn't like you or maybe even hates you. Because, I don't know, it is what it is. It is what it is. There's still going to be, I think there's always going to be a person that just doesn't like you, no matter fucking what. No matter if you're just really fucking nice or like you're an asshole. But if you're an asshole, there still might be someone that just likes you. But yeah, also think about your purpose and some questions that might lead you to figuring out your purpose, and maybe also a business idea would be what pisses you off the most, what really pisses you off, and then change it. What are you trying to change in general, and why are you on this planet? Why are you here? What are you trying to do? What are you trying to make? What you're trying to change? All those things, this might help you to find out your purpose, because it is definitely very, very important. As Viktor Frankl in his book How to Win Friends, not How to Win Friends and Influence People, but Man's Search for Meaning. Yeah, Man's Search for Meaning. Amazing book, by the way. It's a really tough book, to read and to just think about, but it is a really, really amazing one. And yeah, I really have to thank you from really the bottom of my heart. Like, I'm extremely glad that I started this journey, and I'm extremely glad that people are watching it. People are watching, keep watching, and whatever, is just insane. It is amazing. It just feels good. And if you went to the end of this episode, then I just really, really, really have to thank you. Thank you very much from the bottom of my heart, and I'll hopefully see you the next time. And until then, stay happy, be happy. I wish you the best, and I'll see you the next time. Bye.